Blog Talk Radio.
Brings back memories. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Welcome. This is the 90 Degree Show, brought to you by the Marching Podcast and Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Beard, and I am happy to be of service to you today. Today is, let's see here, it's May 19th, 2012, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and this is the pilot show to introduce the world. That's right, the world premiere to the 90 Degree Show, brought to you by the Marching Podcast and Blog Talk Radio. So bear with us, and we appreciate you listening today. Now, the purpose of this show is to enjoy the enthusiasm of college marching bands and providing avenues to discuss bandmanship, educate and expose youth on the college marching experience, to help out with scholarships in music, and conducting interviews on how former band members or non-former band members and all of their network of contacts are contributing to their communities. We're really excited about kicking off this show. And you know, you may ask yourself, how is the 90 Degree Show going to accomplish these tasks? Well, one way we're going to accomplish these goals of ours is using a number of resources that are out there on the internet. Now, these resources I personally follow myself to keep my ear to the street of all news about historically black colleges, whether it be sports or education, academics, events, what have you. There are a lot of them out there. But the main ones that I actually myself use are HBCU Digest, and that is HBCU DIGEST. You can find them on Twitter. You can find them on Facebook as well. Always have great insight about a broad range of topics concerning historical black colleges. We have bandhead.org, which is a great site, especially for what this podcast is about. The Marching Sport News is also a bandhead.org site, and live, in-depth discussions and forums about a lot of things for marching bands, and I'm sure a lot of you know about the fifth quarter. I'm a member of all of these sites. I'm sure you are as well. But on Twitter and across Facebook, there are a lot of organizations. Pretty much type in it HBCU, and you'll find a number of them. There's HBCU Network, HBCU Pride Nation, HBCU Connect, a lot of them. And all of these are great data resources to spread the news and events about historically black colleges, and I myself, like I said, I definitely follow them, and I really enjoy them. So we're going to be using that content to fuel this show, kind of give a voice to a lot of that, to a lot of the things that we see. Really, really excited about this show. As you can tell, probably. Speaking of fifth quarter, they actually had a podcast about historically black colleges and university bands. They were on iTunes for a while. They were up for 2 or 3 years. And they stopped. Let me see. I have the information. They stopped in November of 2009. The last show was the selection show for the Honda Battle of the Bands, and they haven't been out yet since then. Now, I'm not sure if they are still out there, if they are still doing their thing. But if you are, or if you're not, whatever, if you are out there listening to any of those resources I named, let's build a bridge. Let's keep the support for our schools alive. I truly believe that knowledge is power, and with education, we'll be able to take down all the obstacles that plague us in our society, in turn providing a light that shines worldwide that will make a difference. You know, these sites are very helpful with recruiting and discussions and instrumentation tips, data, and it keeps everyone in the community of bands worldwide abreast of what's going on. So let's go ahead and keep that support going. Again, this is the 90 Degree Show, brought to you by the Marching Podcast and Blog Talk Radio. Thanks for listening. I guess I can give you a little personal introduction about myself, maybe tell you a little bit about who's talking, who will be delivering this podcast to you. Again, my name is Joe Beard, born in the great city of St. Louis, Missouri, in the great year of 1978, born to Joe and Natalie Beard. Joe Beard of Jackson, Mississippi, graduated Jackson State in 1966. Natalie Beard formerly Natalie Kennedy of Charlotte, North Carolina, graduated Spelman College in 1971. My parents met in St. Louis at Washington University, where they were pursuing their postgraduate degrees. My father was working on his PhD, and my mother's in her master's program, and they met. And as they say, the rest is history. My dad played trumpet for Jackson State back in the 1960s, but they weren't the sonic boom of the South back then. They were the best band in the land. And I'm not talking noise about them, but that was the actual name of the band, the best band in the land. I started to play trumpet in the 5th grade and actually played on my father's horn starting out. So that was very special, something to pass down in the family, and I was honored to do so. Went to Lutheran North High School in St. Louis, Missouri. Graduated there in 1996. Shout out to Mr. Steve Termenstein, who actually just retired last year. He was a great mentor. Actually, I ran track and field. He was also my track coach. So very blessed to have him in my life. And shout out to you, Mr. T. Went on to Johnson C. Smith University in March for the International Institution of Sound under Duncan C. Gray. Shout out to Duncan C. Gray. God bless it. Really inspirational in my development and a good guy, a good friend. I have mad love for the IIS, but I transferred the following year to Jackson State. Marched in the sonic boom of the South. I'm sure I will be getting into that story later of why that happened. But still honored to march in the sonic boom of the South. Shout out to Louis Liddell, Paul Adams, Edward Duplessis, Michael Magruder. They were the band directors when I was there. Probably maybe a great Hall of Fame compilation of minds. And that's probably why we were so good during those years. I marched from 97 to 99. Shout out to the Royal Order of Trump Funk, Crab of 97. Shout out to the Crabs of 97, the 97 Thugsters. I love you out there. Thanks for listening. RIP to Jermaine Dorsey. He was one of our crab brothers that passed about 10 or 11 years ago, so he's always in our spirits. Shout out to the class of 94, 95, and 96. If I start naming names, I will not finish this show. But you know who you are. You all brought us in. RIP to Itimi Emanima, Tim for short. He passed away a couple months ago. And with him and Jermaine, they actually made up 2 of the 4 drum majors of the 1998 year. So, shouts out and prayers to their families. We always keep you in our thoughts and prayers. So definitely wanted to give those guys a shout out. I became a Mason in 1998. Shout out to the T.C. Almore Lodge 242, Jackson, Mississippi, Stringer Grand Lodge. Finished Jackson State in 2001 and went on to grad school at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, IUP. Finished there in 2003 with the Master's of Science in Geography. Now, from there, I had my first job in Nashville, Tennessee as a software technician. I worked there to 2006, where I was blessed to get a job at the parent company in Southern California, and that is where I currently reside and work as a product release engineer for the company as called ESRI. Shout out to ESRI for allowing me to eat and live out here in California. Never thought I'd be out here. It's a truly blessing, so thank you. Pledged Omega Psi in 2007, 12807, Pyro, 6 Dog, Tail, Phantom of the Opera, Riverside, California, 12th District. Rude to all the bros out there. Thanks for listening. Got married in 8/26, 2011, which is last year, to the lovely Adriana Brisano, now Adriana Beard. We have a wonderful daughter named Kennedy, which is my middle name. And my wife is pregnant as well, due in late September, to a boy to be named Alonso. And we are super crunk about that, I'm sure. So that's my life to this point. Again, you're listening to the 90 Degree Show, brought to you by the Marching Podcast and Blog Talk Radio. Thanks for listening. Being part of Omega Psi-Phi, I definitely learned it was important to be a part of projects to build a community. These experiences I had around the fraternity were working like at the Inland Empire African American Academic Bowl and working with the California African Americans' parents. I realized that it was not only up to me to volunteer when and where I can, but to create something. But to create something for myself. And I'm just now getting the 90 seconds, so this is a whole lot more faster than what I thought. I'm definitely going to have to upgrade this one. But, we'll wrap it up, and I'll have a part 2 with the next 15 minutes later on. It'll be a part 2. Again, this is a 90 Degree Show brought to you by Marching Podcast and Blog Talk Radio. But I'll definitely get into, I have a minute left, that's what they're telling me, so I'll definitely get into the next part. And being on the West Coast and not being exposed to any bands, I really thought that it was important for me to build something in this case and use one of my passions. And I'm here to spread excitement out here in California and provide an avenue to get more children enrolled in college, in turn building a bridge from east to west. So I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap up this show now. I'm going to come back with part 2, saying the rest of what the show will entail and what we're going to do. And then we'll open it up for some calls. I got a couple of things, and actually one thing that I posted in the 5th quarter that I wanted to bounce off you guys. But thanks again. Again, this is only part one. Shout out to everybody that's listening on my first venture here. I really appreciate the support. And I'll be talking to you there on part two. Again, thanks again, and thanks for listening.